Now time for a very big interview this morning. July, usually a little early to focus on New York's mayoral race, but not this year. It's become a national spectacle as a controversial Democratic socialist Zohran Mamdani leads in the polls and the prediction market. Former New York governor, an independent candidate for mayor, Andrew Cuomo, is with us here live this morning at the table here in Times Square. Good morning to you, sir.
Good to be with you.
Look, we've had so many business leaders come on this broadcast and say, what is going on? They don't love Mamdani. That was a surprise, I think, for a lot of New Yorkers. And yet he clearly is ahead in the polls, won the primary, beat the current mayor. I think the question now is you've decided to stay in this. What do you need to do differently? What can you do differently than you were doing before?
Yeah, good question. First, frankly, in the primary, I made some strategic mistakes. I had a big lead, so I basically played prevent defense. And I wasn't aggressive enough in the campaign. I didn't debunk his ideas. I didn't put forth my affirmative agenda strongly enough. Then on election day, we had an explosion of these under 30-year-old Bernie socialist type, anti-Israel type voters that no one had seen before in history. The proportion that they voted. So that's what happened in the primary. We now go to a general. The general is a different audience. It's a different electorate. It's bigger. It's more moderate. It's more Queens, outer borough. You have independents. You have Republicans voting. So it's a totally different ball game in the general.
Okay, play the math out, though, because we have a lot of folks who like to do math here, who watch our broadcast, and a lot of people who are thinking about who they want to put money behind. And right now, they're looking at you. They're looking at Mayor Adams. By the way, they're looking at Sliwa. Like there's a couple of, and there's a view that if all of you are in there, you're just going to effectively give votes to effectively Mamdani or to the other. So if Adams comes out, for example, and you stay in, what happens? Meanwhile, if you get out and Adams goes in, what happens?
Yeah, well, I think that's the bottom line question, right? A multi-candidate field favors Mamdani because he's a socialist on the Democratic line. I'm a Democrat on an independent line, right? Because politics is all upside down in this country right now. But you have a lot of people who knee-jerk go to the Democratic line, right? It's about 70% of the voters are Democrats in the general election, and he'll be on the Democratic line. So multi-candidate field favors him. If you get down to a two-person race, certainly he can be beaten. Polls show I beat him now in a two-person race. But that means the field would have to winnow down.
Which polls show that? Because we also have looked at Kalshi and Polymarket, which are these prediction markets that put him in a significant lead, almost invariably.
Yeah. The prediction markets do. A Harris X poll came out a couple of days and shows that I beat him in a one-on-one race. But the question is, how do you get there, right?
To a one-on-one race.
Right. And Governor Patterson, former governor of New York, a few others made a proposal that makes total sense in my mind. That is, come September, who's ever stronger, basically, between me and Adams, that candidate should go forward, the other one should defer.
September 1st, September 30th?
Mid-September is what they were talking about, because then you really have to gear up for the November race. There's a Republican who would be in the race, but I think you could win with 3. With 4, it gets very hard.
We had Eric Adams on the show, and he said, when I asked him about it, he was a little chagrined that you asked him if he was going to get out of the race. He said, I'm the incumbent mayor. You've already lost to Mamdani. Make the argument for why it should be you instead of him.
Because he's unelectable. You know, he did not, he dropped out of the Democratic primary, Mayor Adams, because he's just not competitive in the Democratic primary. And this goes way back, right? This is before he was indicted, before the whole President Trump pardon, conditioned pardon, whatever that was. New Yorkers had turned off on him, on his management of the city, the ongoing corruption. So he entered the Democratic primary, then dropped out because Democrats, especially after his transaction with President Trump, are very negative on him. So he couldn't run in a Democratic primary. But Democrats are 70% in the general, and you can't win writing off 70%. But it's not, you don't have to decide that now. In September, the proposal is who's ever stronger goes forward. I have said that if I'm not the stronger candidate between myself and Adams, I will defer because I think it's that important to beat Mamdani. And the inverse, I think, should also be true. Otherwise, to stay in, you're just a spoiler. You're saying, I can't win, but I'm going to make sure Mamdani wins.
Let me ask you this. Mamdani's success has come from what arguably was this sort of affirmative message that he was going to deal with affordability. Now, whether he can deal with the things the way he's described, I think is a real question mark, if not impossible, in truth. Having said that, I would argue that you made an argument about experience, and the experience being also that you were not the current mayor, right? I mean, at the time, I think there was sort of a view, the current mayor was in trouble, I'm not him, vote for me. By the way, we saw this play out in the presidential election. Kamala Harris and Biden said, I'm not Trump, if you don't like Trump, vote for me. What do you think is the affirmative message beyond the experience piece for what you can do to the city?
Yeah, look, I think the problem with New York City has been twofold. Number one, you've had an incompetent government. Basically, since Mayor Bloomberg, that's 12 years, where you just haven't had a competent mayor in charge. Second, in this city, you've had this shift to far-left politics that has paralyzed the government. So it's anti-development. You can't build. It takes 4 years to get a building permit in New York City. I built LaGuardia Airport in 4 years, right? This anti-development, bureaucracy, incompetence, anti-public safety, defund the police, leftist movement. And I used to say when I was HUD secretary, look, a city is either growing or it is dying, right? And New York is all about development. It's all about growth. It's about pro-business. It's about entrepreneurship.
But how much do you worry that that's not what the city is about right now? I mean, what does this past vote about Mamdani say about the city? What does it say about the Democratic Party? Just, by the way, the big shift in the way the Democratic Party across the country has moved. I mean, look, you were supported and endorsed by the Clintons. For whatever, for better or worse, it often feels that the Clintons are now out of favor. It feels the Democratic Party is a different party today.
No, Henry, there's no doubt this is a microcosm for what's going on across the nation. And I think with President Trump, you've had this far-right movement, and now you have this corresponding extreme left movement. I don't think either are productive, frankly. But Mamdani basically runs as a socialist. Not basically. He runs as a socialist, right? And not a dress-up socialist. He's a genuine socialist.